It's week 10, and here's the players you should be adding off the waiver wire. Let's start off with Joe Flacco. I mean, how is he still available in fantasy leagues, guys? He scored 18 plus points in all 4 games with the Bengals, including 3 with more than 25. And last week, he threw for 470 yards and 4 touchdowns. I know the Bengals have a bye this week, but Joe Flacco needs to be owned across the board. I'd also be looking to pick up Marcus Mariota because Jaden Daniels is hurt once again. And Mariota had some success for fantasy fans earlier in the season when Daniels was also injured, so Mariota could be a bye-week replacement. The Commanders face the Lions this week. How about Terrell Jennings at the running back position? He moved up the depth chart in the absence of Ramondre Stevenson, had 12 touches and scored a touchdown last week. Now, Travion Henderson is still the guy at the top of the depth chart, but if Stevenson can't go this week, Jennings is at least worth a look off the waiver wire. Another running back to target is Dylan Sampson. Remember the last time we saw Quinshon Judkins? He injured his shoulder, and he's currently day-to-day. So if Judkins can't go, Dylan Sampson would be the starter for the Browns in a really good matchup against the Jets. So pick up Dylan Sampson. Moving on to the wide receivers and Parker Washington. The Jaguars lost Travis Hunter. He's on IR. And Brian Thomas Jr. also got banged up last week, and Parker Washington was phenomenal. 8 catches, 90 yards, and he could continue to play a big role this week for the Jaguars, considering the wide receiver injuries. Speaking of wide receiver injuries, the Patriots lost Kayshon Boutte last week, which means DeMario Douglas could have some value moving forward. Last week, 4 catches, 100 yards and a touchdowns, and he scored over 20 fantasy points. So if you need help at wide receiver this week and Boutte can't go, DeMario Douglas is worth a look. At the tight end position, I'm going to go back to Colston Loveland. I told you guys to pick him up last week. He had a huge game, a couple of touchdowns, 118 yards, and a massive stat line from a fantasy perspective. And as long as Cole Kmet is banged up, Colston Loveland is a very startable asset for fantasy managers. He's got the Giants this week. And finally, Luke Musgrave. Unfortunately, the Packers have lost Tucker Kraft for the season due to a torn ACL, which means Musgrave is going to move up the depth chart and be the starting tight end. While I don't think he's going to be as good as Kraft because he had really become maybe an elite fantasy tight end, Musgrave is going to get enough snaps played and run enough routes to potentially be a fantasy starter when the matchup's right. So pick up Luke Musgrave.